The galactic council chambers hummed with the usual arrogance of 1,000 species who believed themselves superior to the small, bipedal creatures from the third planet of an unremarkable yellow star. Ambassador Vex of the Damari Empire leaned forward in his crystalline chair, his forearms gesturing dismissively at the human representative seated in the corner. The humans request what exactly? Vex's translator crackled with disdain. The human ambassador, a woman named Kate, remained perfectly still. Her dark eyes tracked each speaker without betraying emotion, her hands folded neatly in her lap. She had been sitting there for 3 hours, listening to the council debate humanity's petition for protected shipping lanes through Damari space. They want safe passage for their merchant vessels, rumbled Thok of the Granite Collective, his rock-like features shifting with what passed for amusement among his kind, as if their primitive fusion drives could threaten our quantum fleets. Laughter rippled through the chamber, a cacophony of clicks, growls, and harmonic frequencies that would have shattered human eardrums. Kate's expression never changed. Council. Prime Nex raised one of her 6 arms for silence. The insectoid leader's compound eyes fixed on the human. Your species has contributed nothing to galactic civilization. Your technology is centuries behind our own. You have no military worth mentioning. Why should the Damari allow your cargo ships through their sovereign space? Kate stood slowly. Her movement was fluid, controlled, carrying none of the nervous energy the Council expected from lesser species pleading for favors. When she spoke, her voice carried clearly through the vast chamber without amplification, because we asked nicely. The silence stretched for 10 full seconds before the laughter began again, louder this time. Vex's crystalline form actually cracked with the force of his mirth. Asked nicely, he wheezed between chuckles. How delightfully primitive. The Damari Empire controls 17 star systems, commands a fleet of 8,000 vessels, and rules over 6 billion subjects. We do not grant passage because someone asks nicely. Kate nodded once. I understand. She turned and walked toward the exit, her footsteps eerily quiet on the polished floor. The council members exchanged glances, surprised by the brevity of humanity's capitulation. That's it, called Thok. No desperate pleading? No offers of tribute? Kate paused at the threshold. No, she left without another word. 6 days later, the first Damari patrol ship vanished. The DSV Conquering Tide, a destroyer-class vessel with a crew of 200, simply stopped responding to communications while patrolling the Kepler corridor. The Damari Navy dispatched a search squadron, but they found only debris-twisted metal scattered across 3 light years of space. Pirates, declared Admiral Rex of the Third Fleet. Some upstart species trying to make a name for themselves. The second attack came 12 hours later. This time, it was a supply Convoy 6 freighters and their escorts. Again, only wreckage. Remained the metal bearing strange scoring that Damari scientists couldn't identify by the end of the week. 17 Damari vessels had vanished. The pattern was always the same. Ships disappeared, leaving behind only fragments of hull plating that looked like they'd been dissolved rather than destroyed. Admiral Rex assembled a battle group 50 of the Damari Empire's finest warships, led by his flagship, the dreadnought Eternal Dominion. They swept through the most recent attack zone with sensors at maximum range, weapons primed, shields raised. They found nothing. Then the Eternal Dominion sensor officer reported something impossible. Sir, I'm detecting a single vessel on long range. Scanners. It's single quotes S. Small. How small? Roughly the size of a Damari courier ship. It's not broadcasting any identification signals. Rex's mandibles clicked with irritation. One ship? Against 50 of ours? Destroy it. The mystery vessel didn't flee. It didn't raise shields or power weapons. It simply sat there in the void, waiting. The Damari fleet opened fire with everything. They had plasma cannons, quantum torpedoes, particle beams that could crack planets. The space around the small ship erupted in a symphony of destruction that would have vaporized a moon. When the weapons fire cleared, the ship remained untouched. "Impossible," Rex whispered. The human vessel moved then not with the lumbering acceleration of Damari ships, but with a grace that defied physics. It slipped between the fleet formations like water flowing through cracks, too fast for targeting systems to track. The first Damari ship to die was the cruiser Stellar Might. One moment it was maneuvering to intercept the human vessel. The next, it was coming apart at the molecular level. The hull simply dissolved, as if the very atoms were forgetting how to hold together. The pattern repeated across the fleet. Ships died without the human vessel firing a single visible weapon. They just stopped being solid. Rex watched in growing horror as his battle group was systematically dismantled. The human ship moved with impossible precision, threading between desperate weapons fire that never seemed to connect. Each time it passed near a Damari vessel, that ship would begin to fall apart. "What are they using?" his tactical officer demanded. "What kind of weapon dissolves quantum-bonded alloys?" Rex had no answer. In 30 years of military service, he had never seen anything like it. The human ship finally stopped directly in front of the Eternal Dominion's bridge. Rex could see it clearly through the viewport, a sleek silver craft barely large enough for a crew of 10. No visible weapons, no apparent shields, just smooth metal that seemed to bend light around itself. The communication system crackled. "To life, Admiral Rex of the Third Fleet." The voice was calm, professional, unmistakably human. "This is Commander Blake of the Earth vessel Prometheus. I believe we need to talk." Rex's hands shook as he activated the comm. What do you want?" "The same thing Ambassador Kate asked for 6 days ago. Safe passage through Damari space for human merchant vessels. You destroyed my entire fleet. Not yet." Blake's tone remained perfectly level. 37 of your ships are currently experiencing controlled molecular decomposition. The process is reversible for the next 4 minutes. After that, well, double quotes, Rex looked around his bridge. Half his crew was staring at their hands in fascination as their fingertips began to shimmer and fade. The effect was spreading slowly up there. "Arms. What do you want?" Rex whispered. "Safe passage through Damari space for human merchant vessels," Blake repeated. "And perhaps a bit more respect when our ambassadors ask for things nicely." Rex's fingers were starting to tingle. Yes, of course. Whatever you want." The sensation stopped immediately. Around the bridge, his crew's hands solidified back to normal. Through the viewports, the remains of his fleet began reassembling themselves, atoms flowing back together like a recording played in reverse. "Excellent," Blake said. "I'll inform Ambassador Kate that the negotiations were successful. She'll be pleased. She really did prefer the diplomatic approach." The human ship vanished, not with the flash of a jump drive or the distortion of hyperspace, but simply ceasing to exist in that location and existing somewhere else instead. Rex slumped in his command chair, staring at his fully restored fleet. His hands still remembered the feeling of dissolution, the terror of watching himself fade away, one molecule at a time. 3 hours later, the Galactic Council received an emergency transmission from the Damari Empire, formally granting humans unrestricted passage through their territory. The message was brief, professional, and completely devoid of the usual Damari arrogance. Ambassador Kate accepted the terms with grace and never mentioned that humanity had been asking nicely for things throughout the galaxy for nearly 2 centuries. She also never mentioned that they had other ways of asking when politeness failed. The council members who had laughed at her request 6 days earlier found the sudden change in Damari policy quite mysterious. But they were all much more attentive during her next presentation, and several species volunteered to establish trade agreements with humanity before she even finished speaking. After all, when someone asks nicely, it's generally wise to listen. Chat Control Sonnet 4.